Everybody, good evening. This is Pat Windrow at the Cable Easel with a live program of painting and drawing from life, and sometimes from a monitor, of a scene which I go out and pick and we shoot it and then come back into the studio and project it, and that's what I paint from, which is the closest you can get to being out of doors if you're not out of doors. I'm going to take phone calls tonight because, as you know, this is live. I'm usually on this program taped, but when it's the last Tuesday of every month, I'm here live, which means that you can call and we can talk about painting and what I'm doing and questions, and if I can answer them, that'll be a plus. And it's 348-6800, and so don't forget that if you need to speak to me tonight, this is the time to do it. Today, on this crystal clear, wonderful day, we went out to Roslyn, which is in Nassau County. We don't go that far afield most of the time, but this time we went to Roslyn, which is, of course, one of those wonderful quiet and completely pristine enclaves of beautiful homes, architecture, and of course the remarkable seashore of Long Island on the north side of it. And Roslyn and Seacliff are two of the most enchanting places you can imagine. Well, on Seacliff Avenue there is a house of another time, another era, and another type of architecture than what we're used to. And when you run into a house like this, you have all sorts of romantic, nostalgic ideas of what architecture is, and so I thought I'd pick this one. It's obviously a turn-of-the-century house, so there was nobody home today to ask questions about what it was and, you know, the year of its building, nor its general vintage. But I would suspect that it is somewhere in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it's got the romantic, wonderful thing that happens at that time of architecture in America, when apparently all the devil was breaking loose with building. It seemed to have been an enormous amount of structure going on. So, as usual, I start with a perfectly blank canvas, and if you intend to do an architectural rendering of any kind, you have to have some drawing ability. You have to be able to draw. So, remember that trees don't really care whether they're too pointy when you do them, but houses care a great deal. And so, when I do an architecture one, I try to give you as much information as possible about how to go about it. Obviously, everything must be as vertical as possible, otherwise the building won't stand. So the guideline, of course, for the tower is going to be the vertical. There is the beginning of the composition. A vertical line which is going to, around which everything is going to be determined. The cone of this tower is very much like a castle, and it occupies a certain proportion. And of course, you have to be able to understand that if it is one way on one side, then it's the same way on the other side. Then there is the perspective of a semicircle, which of course, if you're looking up at it, such as we are here, that becomes a perspective problem of going in a semicircle around it. So all of this has got to do with the understanding about drawing these things. So, let me see, this goes out a little bit further. It's like a witch's hat. And so the tower itself is built around this center guideline. It has got some wonderful details, and I'm hoping that if anybody who knows this building would care to, they can call up and maybe give me some information about it. But as you can see, I'm following it as closely as possible with my drawing of it, and then you'll understand understand that why you slam the brakes on and you say, that's the one we've got to do today. The details are wonderful. We have some close-up shots, which we always take to be able to get the details, but I would like to just, because this is a short program, it's 1 hour, you can't really do what you call a fine arts finished piece, but you can certainly, I can certainly give you the pointers of how you go about this kind of an architectural rendering of a very remarkable building. And as I talk and as I draw, I'm sure that what I'm doing is going to be perfectly clear. Here's the bottom of the window, and that's where the porch begins. That's the point of reference that I'm always talking about. Be sure that you find some point to which you can relate the drawing of these various places, and be sure that while you're observing these things, that you keep in mind also the shadows, which I'm going to draw in right now. This is a shadow that comes from the intense light of what was noon. This was very close to noon today in Roslyn. A lot of activity takes place in this general area. Even though it may be considered a sleepy little seaside town, there is always bustling activities in these places because the shops are quite beautiful. The view from the little park there at the top of the hill looking down on the harbor is absolutely remarkable, and I think that anybody who has a moment would like to go and check this out because it is actually a remarkable area. Here is the window of this tower, and coming into that is at about this level, and this is how I place these things, is that far roof line. And the far roof line has a little gabled roof which is in perspective, and it protrudes, and here is this part. Now, don't forget that if I'm doing something that you find either incomprehensible or would like to know more about it, do call me. There is no reason why we can't talk about this project, and why you can't maybe even help me along with the show. Okay, with that, somebody apparently decided to call, so let me take the call. Hello there, tell me your name, please. Hello?
Hi, this is Sherry from Ronkonkoma.
Hi, Sherry.
I just wanted to ask you one question. I've been painting for a while now, and I'm having a problem. Every time I paint, let's say I'll paint like grass, and then I'll try to paint like flowers next to it, it's hard for me to pick up the color. It gets like very muddy. Do you have any way that to tell me how I could improve?
You mean the green of the grass gets picked up when you try to put the flowers on it?
Yes, it gets very muddy.
Well, that's because you're pressing a little bit hard and picking the paint up, almost as if it was on purpose. The other thing is that you would do it in stages. You wait for the green to dry.
Oh, I see.
Wait for the Sherry, I'm sorry. It seems so simple, but if you let some time go by and wait for the paint to dry, I think that you'll find that the application of color for your flowers will be just as easy as if you were working on a dry board.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for calling, Sherry.
Okay.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Okay. The laying out of an architectural painting is vital. You have to be able to know exactly where you're going as you are proceeding. And so when I said that the knowledge of drawing is imperative when you do this kind of thing, what I'm doing now should be the obvious lesson that you have to know how to draw these things. Practice is what does it. I have never had a lesson in my life. What I have had is an absolute stubborn commitment to finding out how you do this. So being self-taught is perfectly acceptable, I think. Anybody who says I have no time to go to school, actually I never did go to school. I decided that I would save all the schools in the world the agony of having me as a student, and so I simply taught myself. And so that's certainly one answer to the problem. I have another phone call. Hello there, tell me who you are, please.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Pat from Smithtown.
Yes.
I have emphysema. I used to do a lot of oil painting, Pat.
Yeah.
And I'm a senior citizen, and I used to do a lot and enjoyed it. Everybody said I was good at it, but I enjoy watching you. And I was just wondering, do you ever do acrylics? Oh, I know you don't like to paint on only, with oils. And a watercolor, would you recommend? Because I can't inhale the linseed oil fumes. I can't stand that anymore.
Well, your name again?
Pat.
Oh, Pat.
Like your name.
Yes.
Yes.
Listen, Pat, there is absolutely nothing wrong with painting with acrylics. It's just that it's such a difficult thing to work with oils, with colors that dry that fast.
I know.
There's an awful
and you
lot
don't
of...
have a shine to it.
Huh?
You know, that doesn't leave a nice gloss like the oil does.
Oh, well, then all you have to do is to cover it with varnish. If you want a gloss...
I see.
Yeah, if you want a gloss on your acrylic paintings, you simply can cover it when they're dry with a spray varnish. So I mean, if you like the shine, by all means you can apply it later.
Well, I watch you all the time, and I think you're very good.
Well, thank you.
And I wish I could get back to the oils, but I still watch, and I can use the same application except with the acrylics.
Well, you know.
How about watercolors?
Well, watercolors are okay. They're rather difficult to do on a television program because you have to work flat.
I see.
You know, and I'm working with the easel for visibility. But I think that just because of you, I think I'm going to bring some acrylics in the next time and work with some acrylics and
I love that.
And see whether or not that does anything for you.
Yeah, well, we know about when.
Yes, it certainly won't be live until November because I'm not going to be coming back here to do a live show until November.
Okay.
But at that time, I will certainly think of either taping a program with some acrylics with you in mind, Pat.
Oh, thank you ever so much. Have a nice vacation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for calling.
I really enjoy you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye now.
Take care of yourself. Okay, so we have here a layout in a very rough form of an area which is absolutely delicious, I must say. So I'm going to apply the paint with a technique of a small brush. I don't paint with one of those great big brushes, but I'm also going to tell you that this camera work that we did today has left a lot of the details absent. The sun was so bright, the shadows are so dark, that there's a lot of it that gets lost in shadow. However, that makes for a very interesting type of painting when you simply work with the obvious light and shade and you let the details kind of be suggested. It's actually a rather wonderful way of doing paintings, to suggest the details and to just sort of interpret them. That's what makes what painters like to call a painterly presentation. I always work with the farthest spot away first, and obviously that's the sky, and so I'm going to work the blend in. I did a taping of another area in the North Shore in Roslyn and did the same kind of painting technique of the sky because it was done on the same day, and therefore the quality of the sky and the colors were the same. What I keep talking about is the need to be careful with the blend of a sky, because the haphazard, the hope for the best habit of doing a sky is sometimes, to me, quite offensive. If you must get the blend. If you can't get the blend, then continue to practice until you can get it. In other words, to go from brilliant blue to a pale, almost nothing blue at the horizon is, in my opinion, one of the more intriguing things about landscape painting, especially here on Long Island. Long Island has got a wonderful atmospheric condition in the sky whereby when it's clear, the blend is absolutely perfect. There is not a blemish in it. It goes from brilliant ultramarine cobalt blue down to extremely pale, almost turquoise, and that's what I think is one of the more intriguing things. And so when I talk about the blend of the sky being important, it is also because it is such a typical condition of the Long Island skies when the days are clear. And maybe that's one of the reasons that some of my paintings are appealing to people, because they are absolutely faithful rendering of these various conditions of Long Island. I come up here and I find myself always very, very intrigued with the atmosphere of this island. The water on the South Shore and the water on the North Shore makes for the skies to have very special features. And so whenever I do a painting and it is Long Island, even down in Virginia, people look at my work and they say, "Isn't that Long Island?" I think I recognize the atmosphere. So that's what I'm trying to capture here. Not just the architectural gems that we have, nor the wonderful scenes, but I'm going to continue to talk about the Long Island scene and the fact that we are going off into other places such as Nassau, because I think that the island is so rich and so diversified that we can in fact now go farther afield to the east and to the west and so on, and maybe even sometime do some forays and do a study, if possible, of that most amazing American structures, the Brooklyn Bridge. I would like to be able to someday really go out with a camera crew and record what there is to be seen at the Brooklyn Bridge, and then come and do a painting of it. I've done it a number of times, and I think that it's time that my audience be treated to my my love affair with the Brooklyn Bridge and the masterpiece that the Mr. Roebling did way back then in the turn of the century. So so much for going that far afield. But here is the way I approach the painting of the background for anything that is involving the sky. I do the layout, and then I will put the sky in, and then the foliage and everything comes later. As far as foliage is concerned, I think I'm going to get started on the house before too much time goes by, because trees can always be smudged in at the last minute. But the house is important, because that's the point of this painting. I'm going to be using white, and I'm using flake white, because flake white is the one that does not yellow in time. So on those words, let me just take a very short break and think about what you're going to call me about, and I'll be right back. Short enough break for anybody, and here we go to continue with this what I would probably be right in calling an architectural gem. It is obviously turn of the century, and I think that these turn of the century houses that have these towers are a throwback to our European heritage in architecture. Obviously there is a castle quality to these towers, and I think that that's probably what motivated the architects to use them the way they did. They certainly were not room-making devices, because there is virtually no room in a tower, but and in a conical shape such as this, and it was probably extremely expensive to build. But they were the sign of affluence, and I believe probably the sign of some sort of a subliminal desire to have a king complex satisfied. So whatever they are not done very often anymore, and if they are, they usually are, you know, there's a great deal of glass and everything, but there is not the real sort of chateau or castle quality to them that you will find in these vintage buildings. My guess is, because I'm not an architectural student, but I'm most certainly a landscape and architectural painter, and many times I find that that I become really interested in the history of a building. Now this building, despite the fact that it is not really visible as that, was slightly yellow in tone. So the light side of the building I'm going to do in a very pale sort of ochreish yellow, and as the tower goes around, of course it gets light, and then on the shadow side it gets dark. Down here there is a little bit of lightness, and the rest of the place is pretty much in what you might call mysterious shadow, such as over here and when it hits the light side of the building. And I think that these things will begin to take shape and be understood the more we get into the business of trying to decipher what the details are. When the crew goes out, when the camera goes out to take these shots, we take a series of shots of the long distance shot, and then we get the close-ups, which have the details of the building. And so when we get into the details, you'll see those close-ups take place. But right now I'm painting the shadows of all of these of all these sections of the building, so that painting the dark things first means that you have some information as to where to go with the paler colors later. Okay, I just got a sign that there is a caller on the line. Tell me who you are, please.
Hi, John. My name is Jonathan Garcia.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hi. I was wondering, like, how you, when you mix the colors, how you knew if they were the right color that you planned it was going to be.
Well, I guess the answer to that is going to sound like a teacher cop-out, Jonathan. It comes from experience and from understanding what certain colors do to each other. Now, I don't know if that's clear enough to you, or if you understand what I'm saying, but if you know to begin with that blue and yellow makes green, and then you add another color and it's going to change it to a different one, that's how I know.
Yeah. So
the business of selecting and mixing color comes with experience and understanding about what colors do to each other.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked such a complicated question. I hope it was an answer that was helpful in some way.
Yeah.
Okay, Jonathan. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Well, I always hesitate to say it's experience that is going to teach you how to do this, because that's sort of avoiding a direct answer. However, I would like to opt now for an enormously vital thrust in the schools to teach the color wheel, because I find that a tremendous amount of information is absent in an awful lot of courses if people do not understand the color wheel, nor if they're never introduced to it. However, I'm not going to start to go off on that tangent, because I've got this to worry about tonight, and this is the project for the evening: a house on Seacliff Avenue in Seacliff, New York, which is in Nassau County, just off Glen Cove Road. Anybody who knows the area should probably be able to know exactly what I mean by that. And if you are, in fact, in search of something to do with an afternoon of a weekend, by all means, head to the North Shore and take a look at this remarkable heritage that we have up there in a land which has some little hidden away spots which are never to be forgotten by people who go and visit them. I'm not suggesting that a tremendous tourist influx take place at the risk of being hanged alive on one of these historic buildings for having introduced the world into a little enclave of very beautiful and private places. But I think that everybody ought to be able to be in on the discovery of some of these wonderful spots. This is obviously a slate roof, which may or may not have been put up with the original building. I don't want to guess this kind of thing. I know that this roof back here does not seem to be of the same material that the cone tower is on, the cone roof is on the tower. I believe that the cone roof on the tower is probably slate. And so I would hesitate to think that possibly this is. However, there is always a possibility that somebody will call me up and tell me what is what. This roof line here, this is the shadow of this roof here, and I'm painting that in because I happen to have the color on my brush. As I said, I'm going to paint a great deal of this work in shadows, because a lot of it is gone from me. I cannot see it because of the lack of details. In the brilliance of the day was so bright that all of the details are virtually invisible. But I think it makes for a sort of a really mysterious picture when you have only things left to the imagination, such as the details of what's going on underneath this porch. Okay, I have another call, and that's nice. Hello there. Tell me your name, please.
Hello, Pat. My name is Rose from Smithtown.
Yes, Rose.
I enjoy your program, and I was wondering if you could dedicate one program to showing us how to finish up our pictures, you know, and give it that professional look. You always say that you take them back to the studio and finish them.
Good. Well, Rose, did you say your name was?
Yes.
Well, you know, I have probably the largest collection of unfinished television paintings in the world at this point, and so I can bring some in and show you what I mean by refining right here on I think it's a wonderful thought, and I couldn't be more delighted that you've had that idea.
Oh, great. That'd be wonderful. I'd love to see it. I can never get that professional look out of my paintings. They look very unrefined.
Well, I'm sure that, well, I use the word refined only because it's in the, because it kind of works, but what I really ought to say is what I do is I finish them.
Okay.
You know, not necessarily refine them, but I just finish them.
Okay.
Because, as you know, 1 hour is not enough to produce something of tremendous consequence.
Right. Well, I'd love to see how you do that.
Okay.
I can probably get some very good pointers.
Well, I hope so, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate a minute to have you call me again when I'm doing it, and you can tell me you didn't show me exactly what I want to see. So by all means, I will do that. I will do that either on a taped program or on a live program, and the next time I'll be live will be at the end of November. I'm going to skip October this year, and so I'll be talking to you later.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, Rose.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. See, I told you we can't do without that audience. All right, I have here, if you look at this in its unfinished form, you can get a general feeling that it's very bright sunny because of the fact that I'm painting shadows. When I get to painting, and I'm going to put this shadow in on the porch. This shadow is one of the ones that intrigues me. It's quite dense, but it's not as dense as the darkness underneath this porch, but it is nevertheless casting that wonderful angular shadow, and somehow it tells you that this is the fall, and that it's high noon, and the sun is actually at, let me see, what do we do? Fall back in the fall and skip ahead. So we are ahead by an hour, and if this is 12 noon, that means that it's actually 11. So this sunlit porch roof here is telling you more than just the angle of the shadow. It's telling you, if you care to decipher this sort of thing, the time of day that it is. I'm always very concerned with having a place that's recognizable. I treat an architectural painting like I treat a portrait. I want to make sure that when somebody views these pictures of mine, that they don't say, where is that supposed to be? That's the dreaded question, very much resembling when somebody does a portrait and somebody comes along and says, who is that supposed to be? That is killing. Okay, I have another call. Good, let's take the other call. Hello there. Yes.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, my name is Evelyn.
Hello, Evelyn.
I have a question for you, Pat.
Okay.
When you do a sophisticated layout, such as an architectural drawing,
yeah,
why do you paint it in? Why wouldn't you pencil it in or charcoal it in and then go through the rest of your drawing with painting?
Well,
you need to be that specific.
Yeah, well, Evelyn, it's a question which is for me very easily answered. I do not use charcoal. I don't like charcoal. I absolutely hate charcoal. It makes a mess. It turns all colors that you put over it muddy.
Well, when you paint it in and you're going over that area with your color,
I use
that paint also spread?
No, I use very, very thinned out turpentine, and by the time I get to doing the details, that is practically dry.
Okay.
Now, lead pencil also makes a mess and is bloody annoying because it picks up the color as you apply paint to it, and so I avoid it at all costs.
This particular painting that you're working on tonight required drawing skills as opposed to landscapes that are a little bit freer.
Yes.
My concern is, as you need your drawing skills, wouldn't those skills be served perhaps better for your own ability to deal with that?
In pencil.
Yeah.
And charcoal.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, if you have, I understand that what I do here is obviously years and years of being able to draw these things and understanding the perspective. But if you are, you know, have problems with the drawing and you need to take more time, the charcoal is acceptable. However, be prepared that when you go to paint on the charcoal, unless you blow the charcoal really off, or unless you use fixative, you know what fixative is?
Yes.
Yeah, unless you use fixative to fix that charcoal, you're going to find that the color picks up all of that charcoal grayness.
Well, does the fixative in any way inhibit your paint?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So do that, and I'm glad you asked the question, because you see, these are the questions that don't occur to me because I don't think about them anymore.
Great.
Good.
Thanks a lot, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, here's another one of those wonderful shadows that you're just so grateful for, because it tells the whole story. It tells you that this roof protrudes way out beyond the tower, and it's casting that angular shadow here at high noon. And this little darkness in here, this has got to be a darkness of a window. I like very much working in just these planes of color, because there was an American painter called Edward Hopper, an absolutely wonderful painter, who painted what I call the essentials, and the details were kind of left unspoken. And if you go to any museum or any library that has the books, the paintings of Edward Hopper, take it out and study him and see what it is that he had to offer landscape painting. He's done some very well-known scenes, but his ability to just pick out the forms with the shadows is what makes Hopper paintings, well, first of all, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now. Thank goodness an American painter is worth that now. The time it took long enough coming, but Edward Hopper is one of the people that paints in this manner. With details. He was interested in the masses, in the planes of color, and I think that you'll be enchanted. I wish that I owned an Edward Hopper, not only because they're so incredibly beautiful, but also they're incredibly valuable. And it's nice to hear that an American painter has reached the status of having extremely valuable paintings. He's only been dead about 15 years, but he left a wonderful mark on the American landscape community. Okay, I'm going to continue this little noodling and doodling around with these little planes of color and take a short break, but I'll be right back, so don't go too far. Once again, we're now at the middle point of this program. A couple of nice calls. We can use many more if you want to. I'm now going to do these porch posts, which were painted a very pale gray, and they are virtually invisible because they are in shadow. But I think that you'll agree that this darkness underneath here has got to be comprehended and understood, that something is holding up this porch. So no matter how obscure they are, they've got to be put in, and the more mysterious they are if they're dark. And so here are and this is a wonderful wraparound porch in total shadow, complete completely engulfed by the intense shadows of the noon of the day. But nevertheless, this is what I think makes for this kind of a thing. And I was talking about Edward Hopper doing this, and I have to just sort of add and name drop a little bit. I had a chance of meeting him a few years before he died, and he was the most fun man in the world. He did not believe himself to be a great painter. Of course he was, and he was very modest, and he worked all the time, and I met him when he was about 80 years old. And so we painters simply don't quit. He was at it all the time. Okay, another call? Good. Hello there. Tell me your name, please. Hello? Yes? Ah, gone? Okay. Maybe they'll come back. I'm putting some of the details in now, even though it's maybe a little bit premature, but I wanted you to see how these darks are going to affect the general painting. This roof line continues down here past the shadow from this roof, and the only reason that I've discovered that this shadow goes off at this angle over here. So these are the things to be paid attention to, because it all explains what all these little angles are doing. I believe there's a window up here in these eaves up here, just slightly suggested. Is all that I'm going to do this evening. As I explained to, I believe it was Evelyn who wanted me to show how I refine a painting. This would be the perfect candidate for refining, because of the fact that I'm not taking all the time that I might, for the reasons that this show is only an hour long, and we have to cover a great deal of ground. Well, here is, let me see, oh, this is sort of pale down here, this is sort of dark, this is a little dark place here for this window, and I believe that I see somewhere up here there is a sort of a shadow underneath this part of the building, and a window up here. In any case, when some of the close-up details, if we have any, I'm not sure that we took any, but if there are any close-ups of these dark places, I'll be glad to sort of add them as we go along. Well, let me see. Oh, here we have the center window here, which is sort of grayish in color, and I'm just going to block it in and see whether or not I can figure out what the details are. There's a wonderful bunch of archways underneath here, which can be simply designated by drawing their shape in. I'm going to use this brush as a maul stick. Here is this large dark area here, which is the lower window in the first floor of the tower, or the second floor of this tower, and then come these obviously very Victorian arches in the detail. Wouldn't it be nifty if some of the houses today that were built had these details? Wouldn't we be all possibly much happier? We certainly would be much more romantic looking than we are. I think that the ranch house is okay, but it sure doesn't have many romantic looking details in the architecture. However, people can add them on if they want to. And sometimes people do. Well, here is I believe that there's a sort of a little pattern here someplace, I'm going to just vaguely suggest it. And up here in the tower, there are some curlicues that take place underneath this roof. Let me see if I've got to extend this a little bit more. As you can see, even such as I, who have been doing this for a powerfully long time, have to accommodate some of my losses. I will have to elongate this painting to get this the needle of the cupola in. So I will, in what I call refining the painting, I will probably push the sky up to give more room to it. There is a chimney hidden back here. It looks to me like it's slightly chimney colored. And I'm just going to suggest it. The dark side is obviously this side, and then there's a lighter one on the other. And there is a nice sort of a pattern, which is typical of turn-of-the-century chimneys. They did have an overhang, and maybe a couple of little fireboxes up here. So that's one. And then there's another chimney hidden behind here, and this is all in sort of in shadow and just very silhouette-y. Let me get the light color of that chimney. I'm using turpentine to thin this because I want it to flow very, very easily. This is just blocking this chimney in here. There must be many, many more chimneys. I know that they were all over the place on these buildings, but I don't see any right now. Well, is there something here? Yeah, I think there may be something, a dark place here and so on. Well, here we are with the beginnings of how you would interpret this wonderful old building. These were a little bit darker, and all of these little planes of color can be made darker for the drama of it. Now, then, I've got to now contend with the foliage. The foliage around this house is obviously very typical of what was planted at that time. time. A lot of care was taken when these houses were built to plant trees that would do something good for the buildings. And I'm sure that when this house was built, none of these trees, of course, were up this high, but they selected them. And I think that the pine tree over here on the right, this is not a white pine. I don't know what Christmas tree calls. It's a spruce of some sort. This one is growing over here. Obviously, I believe must have been planted at the time that the house was built, because it's absolutely gigantic, and so you can assume that this is more than likely a tree that is close to 100 years old. Yes. Hello. Oh, another call. Good. Hello. Tell me who you are, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, this is Eleanor, Pat. I had called you. I'm the lady who tapes your show for her daughter up in
Massachusetts. Oh, good for you.
Yes. I just called to welcome you back. I'm so glad to see you live again.
Thank you.
I missed you over the summer.
Yeah, thank you.
And also wanted to tell you that my daughter was down over the summer and drove by the fish church, which you had painted, and recognized it immediately.
Good.
And also wanted to ask you if you had any plans to do the pencil at Jones Beach.
The which? The pencil?
It's the pencil tower as you approach Jones.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've been out there a number of times, and I don't know why we never stopped. I think there's a parking problem.
Oh.
I have a feeling that we have been out there often enough with the crew, and I wound up doing this painting that you see here, which is on the Jones Beach side. This one of the Captree Bridge. This is over just behind my easel here. Maybe the camera can pick it up. We were over there to get that. Yeah, that's the painting that I did when we couldn't get the Jones Beach needle.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, we can maybe try again, or either that or tap our influence and try and get the police to cooperate and let us park there for long enough to take a shot.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Oh, well, I'll go try and vamp them someday, and maybe they will. Maybe I can do that. It's a lovely suggestion, and thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Pat. It's good talking to you.
Well, thank you for calling, and I'm sure that we'll talk again.
I'm sure.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, the need for this, for putting, you know, the thing about painting at high noon is just wonderful, because actually you can get away, you can cop out a great deal by just putting all these wonderful dark places in here, and everybody knows that it's in shadow, and you really don't have to agonize over the details. So painting at this time, and I could have actually sat in the car today and painted this this scene with no problem. There is it's a lovely spot, and the little street has got plenty of places that I could have sat and parked without any problem at all. And here is the introduction of this pine. Now you got to make sure that you understand that trees have their anatomy. They are not like some of the programs that tell you that if you take a brush full of paint and hit the canvas in a certain way, that maybe it'll look like a tree. I like to make sure that I understand that the general species of tree is faithfully represented. So that's why I always sort of insist upon doing the trees with small brushes. I have another call. Good. Hello there. Tell me who you are, please.
Hello?
Yes.
This is Carolyn from Bohemia.
Yes, Carolyn.
Hi, I enjoy your program.
Good.
And a special interest this evening when we tuned in.
Why?
We realized that I believe you're painting a home that was in our family for years.
I can't believe this.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful? What's your name again?
I'm Mrs. Camano.
Yes.
And my father is Kenneth Pearsall, and his great aunt is Elsie Pearsall Lindbergh.
Good Lord.
And I believe she died in the 70s. She was about 88 years old when she died, and then the house was sold a few years prior to her death. And
well, tell me what year it was built. Do you know?
Oh, I don't know offhand. I would have to talk with my dad. He's also watching the show in his house. We all called each other and said, that's the house, that's the house.
Oh, how amazing.
And I believe it's on Main Avenue and the corner of Seacliff Avenue.
That's exactly what it is.
92.
I was there less than 4 hours ago.
Yes.
Or, well, you know, 8 hours ago.
We've been by a couple times to visit it because we have a photograph of it, but each time we've stopped, the people have not been home, and I believe they're renovating. They're redoing the inside. And
well, I tried. I sort of looked and furtively looked and was hoping that somebody was home, but there was no real activity, and I always hesitate to go and knock on a door because you never know what people are doing. And so, your name again, Romano?
I'm Camano.
Camano.
Caamano. Camano.
Camano.
Right, and it was Elsie Pearsall Lindbergh.
I'll be darned. Any relation to Charles?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, I couldn't be more amazed to think that somebody has actually called up, because we do live in Suffolk County, and this is another part of the world, this Nassau.
Right.
Well, Miss Camano, I'm so happy that you called.
Thank you, and I love watching your show because I've just started taking art courses myself lately and started to dabble in some pastels and some acrylics.
Well, dabble away and keep it going.
But I'm really enjoying watching you do this picture especially.
Well, thank you so much.
Hopefully I'll be able to purchase it at some later date.
At the Art for Open Lands.
That would be great.
Great. Thank you again for calling.
Thank you for speaking with me.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, will wonders never cease? Can you believe such a thing, that you would get that kind of a response? That's what makes this all great fun. That's what makes me come all the way up from Virginia to do this program. I wouldn't miss this for anything. Well, I'm getting sort of into the completion of this. I never look at my watch because it just sets me full of panic, and I don't think that's a good idea. I just going to keep going as much as I can and accomplish as much as I can. It was obvious that this is an enormous tree. Absolutely huge. I should have asked Miss Camano whether or not this tree was there when her family was there. But anyway, it's a huge, big, old tree going on and doing wonderful things for the general landscape of the area. Now, here we have this boxwood in the front, or privet hedge, I suppose is probably better. I'm going to just block in very rapidly with a larger brush, hopefully, the whole lower part of this privet, and then give you the once again another suggestion of what the sunshine was doing today at high noon in this area, where, as you can see, there is traffic going, not as heavy a traffic as there was in other parts of the North Shore today. I tell you, I ran into some traffic problems that were absolutely staggering. Everybody knows about Long Island traffic, but you certainly don't expect to see it in sleepy little towns on the North Shore, but it's there. I think we have been consumed by civilization almost beyond the point of any return. But anyway, here is the general feeling of those dark bushes that surround this building. And the tops are, of course, I'm going to use a pure it's called yellow-green. It comes right out of the tube, and because fortunately they did not go along with a hedge cutter, there is a certain uneven top to this privet hedge, which I'm very grateful for. There's nothing more unpainterly than seeing a hedge that has got a perfectly straight ruler, a sharp line at the top of it for the character of the hedge. I'm glad that nobody got out there with the hedge cutters in some maniacal effort to make it straight and flat. I, as a painter, would much rather see these little brilliant privets sticking up in the sunshine. So much for, see, you never can tell. You can't please anybody in this world, and I don't want to see the hedges cut. Yes, okay, let me take a call. Hello there.
Hi, my name is Eileen. I'm from Comac.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you ever paint from photographs. I always see the video where you have an arrangement, but do you have any objections to painting from photographs?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Oh.
You know why? Photographs have been, first of all, they eat up details in the shadows, and secondly, I don't trust the Kodak people.
Okay.
Eastman Kodak is not going to want to hear that. I don't trust those colors.
Oh, okay.
They're mechanically reproduced. There is a static quality, and why would you bother to reproduce the second dimension onto the second dimension? What you're trying to do in painting is to transfer the third dimension to the second dimension, which is the flat area, and see if you can meet that challenge.
Yeah.
That's what gives it the look of a painting as opposed to the look of a copied photograph.
Right. Well, the reason I asked is because my husband's aunt lives in Hawaii, and she's a painter down there, and we wanted her to paint, his father sent several years ago a picture of Montauk, and she painted a picture of Montauk, and you're right, the colors are a little off or maybe too bright.
A picture of your what?
A style.
A picture of what?
Of the lighthouse out at Montauk.
Ah, yes.
And since she lives in Hawaii, we wanted her to paint it, but she's not here. So,
yes.
You're right, it didn't come out very, very well. It came out very kind of bright.
Well, it's all, you see, there's such a subtlety about nature, and if you're out there and you see it, you're continually amazed at how brilliant some things are and how absolutely flat and unbrilliant other things are, and that's what makes for the drama, and that's what makes for the painterly look about it. I'm saying that I have copied photographs for people who have lost their houses, let's say in a fire.
Right.
And I have done that, and it's been a sentimental thing, and I have made every effort in the world to try and make it to not look like a copied photograph.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you.
It is difficult, but you have to try to do that because, in my opinion, a photograph is a photograph and a painting's a painting, and I don't think the twain should ever meet.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm sorry to sound like such a snob.
No, not at all.
But I love the question.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good, bye-bye. Oh, I really am. I'm really a little bit shy with my opinions, aren't I, wouldn't you say? Anyway, here we are. The sun is hitting those wonderful privet hedges. There is a lamppost, which I'm not going to question. It is 9 minutes to go. Oh, good. Well, that couldn't be any better. I have a watch that doesn't keep time very well, and so I never really know what time it is. So I have a fine young fellow here who is able to give me the time. I'm going to use this paintbrush as a maul stick, which is a stupid word for something that you rest your hand on, but it's what it's called. And sometimes a maul stick is just a great long shiny stick with a buffer on the end of it. I don't carry all that equipment around with me. I can't be bothered with it, but I'm going to put this lamppost in, and I have to place it. And the placement of it is that it is, according to my monitor, it is directly below, or really sort of hugging, this chimney back here. This is how you place things. You find the point of reference and then you place it. Now, to be able to run a perfectly straight line down is sort of a problem, and nobody in their right minds does this on camera live, but I am, and hopefully it'll be straight. And if it isn't, I can do what I said to you before. I take it back and I correct it, refine it, and or finish it. And so this lamppost, which I must say is far more attractive than many of the ones that I see being put up today, comes in front of the privet hedge because it's on the sidewalk. So it's in front of the privet hedge. One knows that by the fact that in this painting it simply intersects the privet hedge. There's also a shiny side to it, which I'll get to. And then the arm of it is in perspective, and it is right at the top, and this is approximately the angle of that of the arm of that lamppost. And the only thing that saves it from being too intrusive on the painting is the fact that it's got a curlicue, and it's got a funny sort of a funky shaped lamp to it, kind of a upside down paint bucket shade on it, and it has a sort of a funny little charm to it, and it was dead center of the house. There's no way that I could get to see this house without seeing this bucket shaped street light. However, as I say, I'm a recorder of places, and if it's there, then so be it. Put it in. Nothing's perfect, and I'm not saying that this makes the painting less interesting, less perfect. It just is an intrusion on the painting of a house. However, it's there, and let me put it in, and I'm sure that Miss Camano would agree that if that lamppost was there when her family was in that house, then it still is there, she's glad to hear it. So here is the little curlicue. It helps a little bit that it does have a curlicue and that it is at an angle, and of course the bulb comes down underneath it, and it is not as dark as the top of it. Therefore, it gets to be not an outline like that, but it gets a sort of and the sky is still wet enough to be able to pick up some of the color, and it becomes just it becomes a sort of a rendering of that light. Ah, good. Here's another call. Hello there.
Hello,
who are you,
Pat.
please?
Hello, Pat.
Yes.
This is Joan from Port Jefferson.
Hi, Joan.
I'm enjoying your program immensely.
Thank you.
And learning quite a bit. I've been using the medium of oils and watercolors and acrylics. And I was wondering if, as you're going, you could mention the color mixes that you're using.
Well, I thought I'd do. I guess I didn't today. Oh, that's not kind. I should have done that. I'm sorry.
Well,
I can kind of go. It all is not lost. We haven't quite finished the program yet. This is what you might call a monochromatic picture.
Yes.
Because there are so few colors. You'll see there's no evidence of red in here whatsoever. And so as I go along, I will tell you about it, and I'll recapitulate and give you a quick feeling of what it was.
Well, thank you very much.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
I'm glad you called. I was in Port Jefferson today. Was it the most beautiful day you ever saw?
Oh, it certainly was.
Yeah, well, good for calling, and thanks for watching, and I'm glad you got something out of it.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, the basic colors that I have on my palette that I have dipped into during this entire program is the ultramarine blue. I have used raw umber a number of times here because of the need to subdue all of these tones. Yellow ochre is predominant. White is of course predominant. An introduction of some cobalt, and one of my very favorite colors, but which is a dangerous color to use, called Indian red. Indian red is wonderful, but you have to know how to use it. It's like jalapeno peppers. You don't use much of it. You keep it to a minimum. Right here, there is a break here in this lamppost, and you can tell by the break because there's a little shiny place that sticks out. Well, I think that I just got a signal. 3 minutes to go, or 3 minutes left to go. 2. Oh gosh, it's running away. Well, I have no details to show you. First of all, there's almost no time. Apparently, the details that we took on the shoot are either not available or didn't turn out, and so the details apparently are not going to figure into this study very much. But I do know one thing, that back here there was another cutout like this. There were 2 of these very strange balcony cutout windows, almost looked like an afterthought, and there was one back here. I do remember that because I told young Brian, get the shot of that strange-looking upside-down, strange pear-shaped window, and so I know there was one back here, and that's a detail that I'm sure that I can recall. Oh, there it is. Now, I told you it was there. It was on the other monitor. I mean, I guess the audience isn't seeing it, but I am now getting my reference. Yeah, these are very peculiar windows, and they're quite wonderful. Miss Camano can probably tell me some history about why those windows are there. But nevertheless, these wonderful architectural places are absolutely something else again. So if you do think that you want to go by and see this house, just scoot on up to Seacliff and see if you can just drive up Seacliff Avenue, and you come to Main Street. You'll run into the most charming village. The best delicatessen in the whole world is there, making the best sandwiches, and this house is on the corner of Main Street and Seacliff Avenue. I have a feeling that I will go back there again for another subject matter, because there is a park there overlooking the Sound with more boats than you could possibly imagine ever were existing. They were all out there in the harbor being buffeted in the winds today, because it was quite windy out there. But the scenery is just wonderful. And we do live in an extraordinary place, and we do find ourselves maybe not taking the time to see what this extraordinary place is like. So by all means, if my program can help you to discover some of the treasures that we have, well then maybe that's the purpose of the program. Here are some more dramatic darks that you see in these deep places where these nice shadows leave things mysteriously concealed from not just you, but me as a painter. And I think that when you are able to just pick the salient features, you get a nice now up there underneath the eaves, and I do believe that that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I found, were some of these curly cute details underneath here, and they're all sort of underneath here, you know, barely visible, and I don't think that you'd be able to see them, but they're there. They are those. Isn't that remarkable? Look at that. And they're all underneath here, underneath these eaves, and well, virtually impossible for me to be able to show you at this time, but they are nevertheless there. And I think that when you go by, you'll get a load of that. This was an age when you not only could afford to do it, but you did it because you were concerned with detail. And maybe our lives have become a little bit less concerned with detail and more concerned with process. So I don't know. Let's throw this all back in time and see if we can't recapture some of these things which are now so remarkably wonderful and nostalgic for us to see. Up here, there are some details about this window which I'm not quite sure I can get in, but I do believe that there is a sort of a curtain hanging here, or sort of a suggestion of a curtain up in this tower window, and maybe there's also some sort of an arrangement down here. Anyway, oh, those are little blue things on the side of the building. I see. They're little triangles. Okay. See, I'm not sure. I don't know whether or not that's being seen by the audience, but those little blue details is what I'm talking about. Oh, and this is all sort of blue around here. Okay. Well, the only thing left to do is to sign this, and I also believe that the signing of these things should be done as masterfully as possible. Preferably so that if these pictures are seen in 100 years or so, that the name will be not only visible but also characteristic of the painter and easy to find. And the painting community has decided that all paintings should be signed down at the lower right, and so be it. Let it be signed down on the lower right. You need to have a fine brush, and you need to have a fairly steady hand, and if you've got a real dark space like that, you need to do it in a very pale color so that it shows. So I'm going to use some extremely pale color, and I'm going to just, as we sign off, and thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed all this. I'm going to sign the name. You really have to get down to it and sort of concentrate on what you're doing. I'm glad that you were not liquid enough. Hang on, let's not panic. Here is the signature. If you can do it in the dark areas, you obviously would do it with a paler color, and date it with the year if you think that you can. And then if it survives, it will be a document as to what we had here in the year 1992. So I'm going to put 92 as best I can, and maybe even make that clearer later when I sign it more carefully. So this is the Cable Easel. Once again, I'm glad I was able to spend some time with you. I love the phone calls, and I'll see you live at the end of November. In the meantime, it'll all be taped, and nobody will ever know I've left. Thanks again. Pat Windrow signing off, and keep painting and keep the brushes clean. Bye-bye.